MrBro, the brother of MrBeast, did a pretty reasonable job of maintaining an average career monthly view count of between 1 and 4 million. However, he'd post a total of only 29 full-length videos before disappearing from the channel around 10 months ago. It's when we take a quick glance over these 29 full-length videos that we begin to notice the very first reason as to why CJ was unable to find success to the same degree that his brother had, being that the MrBro videos were almost indistinguishable from MrBeast's, giving it this feeling of off-brandedness as opposed to its own fresh project. The editing, ideas, and thumbnails were basically identical to MrBeast, whilst the crew, which included individuals such as Chandler's brother, didn't exactly feel all that creative or nuanced. CJ equals Jimmy, Zach equals Chandler, Tyler equals Chris. Together, they are the budget MrBeast team. It was as if he was the exact same as MrBeast, while at the same time being the complete opposite. The reason for this will be explained during CJ's first major appearance on YouTube, in which Jimmy would explain the extent to which MrBro was going to be guided by MrBeast.
You have 5 helpers, a warehouse, office space. You got a $100,000 starting budget.
2 pennies.
We're doing your thumbnails for you, and we're helping you think of content.
Aren't you editing too?
I'm shouting you out and giving you over 1 million subscribers.
Now, it seemed like Jimmy was trying to teach his brother how to fish as opposed to giving him a fish, which was certainly the right approach in this scenario. The systems were set up for CJ in a way where he could achieve instant success whilst learning about YouTube in the process. The problem was that since CJ had absolutely no prior experience with YouTube, he wasn't really mixing these systems with his own pre-developed style or self-learned knowledge, and as a result was rather just replicating MrBeast's branding in its entirety, giving it somewhat of an inauthentic feeling.
With Jimmy's mindset with giving money away, being a philanthropist, doing all the great things that he does every single day to make a difference in people's lives, I have that same mindset, and I also want to do the same thing just like my brother.
Now, it's probably safe to say that this was being done somewhat deliberately, so MrBro could capitalize on MrBeast's existing brand, and in a lot of ways there was massive upside to this approach. We say that MrBro quote-unquote didn't succeed because we're comparing him to MrBeast. However, compared to any other new channel, his beginning was explosive. He did over 10 million views within his first 2 months on the platform. He'd cross over the 1 million subscriber mark prior to even that, and his continual ability to gain upwards of 1 million views per upload, even after the initial shout out, would have without a doubt been, at least in part, a result of him having the ability to replicate the MrBeast success formula almost in its entirety. Additionally, being so similar to Jimmy, meant he could market himself as MrBeast's brother with a similar profile picture and all, giving him a continual attachment to MrBeast's relevancy. However, it was clear that being so similar to MrBeast also put a bad taste in some of his audience's mouths, judging from this Reddit post with over 1,000 upvotes, which was titled, "Guess MrBro is just straight up copying his brother now," written in what seemed to be somewhat of a negative tone. Being marketed as MrBeast's brother also had its own disadvantages. It's likely that many of MrBro's views were coming from people clicking on the videos to see what a video by MrBeast's brother looks like, as opposed to clicking on the video for the title, thumbnail, and idea itself. While this is probably a huge advantage for MrBro's click-through rate, if people were clicking on the videos to simply observe the differences and similarities between the two brothers, there was no requirement to watch the full video. As a result, it's unlikely that CJ's watch time and audience retention was anything close to Jimmy's, which would have been a further disadvantage against CJ's channel. This sentiment of being too similar to MrBeast can be felt further when looking at the comments on the Gamer from Mars video from about a year ago, made on a similar topic to this one. He tried to promote himself as MrBeast's brother, not CJ. You cannot try to be a carbon copy of something when you're just not. As always, MrBeast's brother should just be himself. That isn't a surefire path to success, but it's important to the longevity of the channel. Simple answer: if I'm gonna watch MrBeast's content, I'm gonna watch it from MrBeast, not the great value version. He needs to do his own thing. The problem with these comments is that differentiating yourself from others is substantially easier said than done. It's a multi-year process. Every YouTuber goes through this. You begin by replicating someone you really like, which was where CJ was at. Then, as time progresses, you discover your own nuances, try your own tricks, and develop your own style. However, CJ might have stopped uploading before getting to that point where he could shoot off in his own direction. But again, this goes back to the problem of being branded as MrBeast's brother. Can he even shoot off in his own direction if he needs to maintain that image? Additionally, is he going to be able to develop his own style if the editing, thumbnails, and ideas are all being done for him? Is he going to be able to formulate a baseline understanding of what does and doesn't work on the platform if he isn't learning everything himself from the ground up? This question highlights another point that's worth diving into, being that CJ never really got the opportunity to go through that rocky patch of developing an intuitive foundational understanding for why certain videos do and don't work, usually achieved through a bunch of early failure. Now, you could probably argue that this is somewhat unimportant because it can be taught, but only to a certain extent. You learn a little bit by someone else telling you about their failure or something they've learned, but you learn a whole lot more when you put an entire week's worth of work into something that you think will be a banger before uploading it for 100 views. He never went through the hard work from the years before you get popular, so he doesn't know what it's it's like. You have to start with the corny videos. Therefore, he's not getting enough views. The other problem with skipping this early rough patch is that you potentially fail to develop a deeply meaningful long-term story associated with the channel that you've built. In the case of MrBeast, for example, much of his strong public image and goodwill comes from the obvious vibe that he's been to hell and back in order to get to his current position.
I remember when Jimmy was 14 years old, in his room, editing his videos super late at night of Minecraft, literally just to post it and get maybe 100, 200 views.
His 10+ years worth of experience radiates from every fiber in his being, adding this indescribable flavor of confidence to his videos. CJ or MrBro, on the other hand, even with a similar success formula to MrBeast, still gives off the energy that he's a bit of a newbie. His lack of confidence shines through and it can be felt by the audience. CJ just needs to have more confidence in his creativity and how he directs the videos. When you watch MrBeast, he's very likable and entertaining because he always has a plan and knows how to keep things rolling. CJ understandably looks a little uncomfortable, so he doesn't seem to have full enough control of his content. The other problem associated with not developing a meaningful long-term story is that there's probably minimal emotional connection to the channel, making it pretty simple to quit out of the blue without feeling as though you're giving up on multiple years of hard work. There are so many YouTubers who are no longer achieving the same level of success as they were in their prime, yet continue to upload videos to a dwindling audience, presumably because it's extremely hard to walk away from a project or brand that you've invested years of time into. Meanwhile, CJ seemed to have the opposite experience of this. There was a total of only 1 year and 9 months between his first and last upload, which might not have been enough time to cement his identity as a YouTuber, resulting in minimal downside or regret if he were to remove himself from the platform.
And you just work like hell, to be honest, for 10 years, like, there's probably a good chance you'll make it. But if you do that over the course of 6 months or a year, I don't know. You know?
This also highlights that maybe CJ was never actually making videos because he enjoyed the content creation process. Maybe he'd simply seen MrBeast's insane level of success and was subsequently too focused on the potential rewards, whilst the required level of natural motivation never really existed in the first place. Yeah, he sees his brother's success and wants to be just as successful. Problem is, he can't come up with his own content, so he just looks bad. I try to watch him to support him despite not liking his stuff, but I really can't. It's a waste of my time to try. Sorry if that's harsh, but it's my honest opinion. MrBro is not his brother. We could go deeper and say that maybe he did want to be a YouTuber, yet the type of videos that he was making weren't really what CJ wanted to make authentically. However, he had no option but to make the videos he was making, as he was replicating MrBeast's formula and wasn't following his own genuine curiosity or genre that he enjoyed. MrBeast is often seen discussing the importance of video ideas, stating that if anyone were to apply his viral ideas to their own channel, they would go viral as well.
Obviously, a lot of it is just in the ideas. Like, anyone, if they did this, it would have gone viral. Yeah.
So if anything, at least MrBro was an interesting experiment to see how viral you can make a brand new channel go if it was set up for success by one of YouTube's greatest creators. Plus, there's really nothing stopping CJ from coming back and continuing on from where he left off if he has a change of heart toward the platform.